Bad USB. Sweet. Everybody's doing good out there. We are up and rolling. We'll be firing off the jingle and getting going here in just a minute. Do our typical share everything. Sure, it's running.
I'm ready to roll.
Change the name. We're 62. I can't believe we're episode 62.
We are episode 62.
You had a great title for it, too. What did you call that? What did you call that thing? You called it...
Me or you?
You named our episode title.
Warzone, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
I can make it work.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Share it up. Actually share this thing.
Much better than a regular energy drink, guys. Sugar-free and zero fruit juice.
How do I spell episode? Why am I stupid today? Cool. All right. Well, I am set and ready to go. How about you? And away. Maybe.
Hit that jingle and let's get it popping, baby.
Hit the jingle, boys.
Good morning and welcome, everyone, to episode 62 of the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. I am J007TV, joined, as always, by my co-host and homie, Sub1 Katie. What's good, bro?
Not much. We had our first dose of Atmospheric River for the year. That was fun last night.
Atmospheric River? What are you talking about?
It's what you call a big rainstorm, you know, probably what you guys get like on the daily.
Well, so we get extremes here. We go from being in a fucking drought to we're flooded from, one day to the next. Nothing is ever like normal here weather-wise. It's either really awesome or it sucks, and it can do both of those things in the same day.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to live in Hawaii, and it'd be like sunny and then pouring rain and then sunny again. It's like, what? Seriously? But, yeah, no, it was a good storm. We had, I think we got like a 10th or 20th of an inch or something like that. I forget what it said we were supposed to get. But it basically rained from like 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 2:30 in the morning, nonstop.
That's awesome. See,
and so it was...
I like the rain.
I don't mind the rain either, but, it's like we had... What did we have? We had... the rain shorted the door to the chicken coop, so half of the chickens got stuck outside. So at 10 o'clock at night in the pouring rain, I had to rip the door off the wall and then herd them all in there. But they're all idiots, so it's like they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then our big guard dog is a damn wuss when it comes to the rain, so I had to deal with that crybaby. And then it was just it was a lot. There was a lot going on. So
it's weird. It's one of those things like people don't really think about the stuff like that when they think about, having livestock and just the things that you have to do. Like I can remember he was a pet, not really livestock, but he still had an outside little, almost like a doghouse kind of thing. We had a potbelly pig who grew pretty big, but I can remember having to work on that when we're getting like 15 mile an hour winds or more, and it's like 22 degrees outside, and trying to build that even with gloves on outside in the cold and in the rain, the wind, and I could barely feel my damn fingers. But I meant to ask you, so I know you have livestock. Do you guys have a garden and stuff like that too?
Yes, we are. Well, so we had one that was in ground, and it was 8,300 square feet of plantable space. I think we carved out.
Okay.
And then the gophers found it. And
sons of bitches.
So we are. So I built boxes. I don't know if I shared pictures recently, but so we're doing kind of in-ground or above-ground boxes, and so I built out some of those, and we're getting those up and running for winter, and so they'll be ready by spring, and so we'll have a better garden, more produce going this year than we'd had last year.
What are you going to grow?
Everything.
Tomatoes, lettuce, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, all the basics. So, like, my wife loves doing tomatoes. She's a fabulous cook, so everything is, cooked up there. Cooked up there. But it's like, she'll do squashes and put those up, and she'll do tomatoes. I think one year we had 53 varieties of tomatoes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know there were 53 varieties at all.
Well, there's thousands.
Holy shit.
We had this one that was like, it turned black, in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So like when it was ready, it was like a black tomato, like solid black, but it turned black because um it turned black because the skin was reactive to UV radiation, and so we actually, if you put stickers on it, when you harvest it, you could pull the stickers off and you'd have designs.
No kidding. That's interesting. That's good shit right there, man.
Yeah, it was super interesting. But
So, how's your week been in just Black Ops and Warzone?
Black Ops has been great, man. I've been enjoying Black Ops. Had a good time. No complaints about it, really. It plays well as it has. Still grinding. I'm been working on snipers and marksman rifles, so that sucks from the point of view of grinding headshots.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, yeah, I mean, the game runs well. I'll say this about the challenges in it: like the snipers are a little it's a little tedious to just have like 100 headshots of every weapon, because it really changes the way you have to play the game. And then when you switch it up, like when you get to switch it up and you do the special challenges and you get to do, hip fire kills or whatever, and you get to actually have some fun, the game is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. So that's been kind of the experience on that. It's been good. Finally figured out, I think my problem with Warzone right now is that the server I'm local to, so when I queue with my local friend or whatever, is, I don't know if it's my connection to the server is bad or the server is bad, but like the Bay Area server has just been trash for me. Played with a buddy Lizard the other night with one of my IRL buddies, and they played really well. I actually enjoyed myself. Had a good time.
Nice.
Had some
Nice.
typical bullshit, but had a good time.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, dude, I gotta be honest. I played a lot of Black Ops 6 this week, and unfortunately, I played that alone. So, that win-loss ratio you were talking about, I lost 0.20 points on that. It
Ow.
went down that much. I'm still killing, but we're just fucking like the losing is driving me crazy. Like,
Well, you're solo queuing with people that, whenever you do that, it's like they stick you with the people that think licking walls is the way to go forward.
well, it's really weird. Like, I'll get and I've seen those tweets from people, and it's actually true, because like I'll get teamed up with people like that who have no thumbs or can't see or hear shit, but then
Yep.
I'm playing against a team that's fucking 5 or 6 stacked that are as good or better than me, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, at least that's how it feels, So, that's been frustrating, and then I hit double digits for the first time this Warzone iteration the other day, and then proceeded to have like 4 matches in a row where I just got absolutely bent over. The matchmaking's still there, guys. You're still good.
Working, huh?
Yeah, it's still working. Which up to this point, I'd been able to play with pretty much whomever I wanted, and it was fine.
Yeah.
As far as, like Warzone goes, and I got a friend that came back, used to play in Verdansk, and he's a high skill player. We're going to be playing a lot more, and I feel like my Warzone ranked team group is kind of coming together. I've got about 4 people that I'll be running Warzone ranked with, I think. So I'm excited about that. But I mean, other than that, I mean, the week was pretty decent. I got into Prestige 5. I'm already like 45 into that. So I'm hoping to get into 6 this week.
Straight animal, man. Grinding it.
I just play a lot, dude.
You're gonna get to Prestige Master, and you're gonna be like, there's nothing to grind anymore. They don't put any content in this game.
Oh, I know. We're gonna be talking about this in fucking August. Be like, God damn it. No, but
why
like,
isn't there anything in here?
There is cool stuff.
I think they should add more levels.
They probably will, but especially if people get there early. But I mean, they do a decent job though of having like the events to grind for too. Like this current, what is it, the hit list or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
I think it's the hit list. Like that's cool. And then everybody will get that perk or whatever. But that is something I do want to talk about when we talk about Warzone, because there's some shit that ain't right when it comes to the perks.
Yeah,
So just
perks are a
make a note of
mess.
that. What?
Perks are a mess.
Well, yeah, screw it. So the very first unlock I did when I prestiged was cold blooded, because no, it wasn't. It was the second, because I did the Model L and then I did cold blooded because I was tired of getting killed by streaks. Well, I go over into Warzone after I've prestiged. That shit is locked. Like, I cannot pick cold blooded.
You can't pick cold blooded?
No, no. I posted a tweet of it. I showed it locked. Like I can show you on stream like that it's a permanent unlock on the multiplayer side of things, but then in Warzone it's locked.
That's weird. I wonder if because they moved around where the perks go, it didn't 1-to-1, which ain't right.
Yeah, and I mean there's some things, and I think we can. This will kind of be what we talk about when we get into the 3 steps, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back segment, because that is something that I think is kind of an issue with kind of where we're at right now, if I'm being real. But anyway, what do you think about the season 1 update though? Like, how are you feeling about just the overall content, the battle pass, Black Cell, that kind of stuff?
I think the battle pass is good. Black Cell, as usual, has a bunch of stuff on it. I don't love the operators they've picked out. I don't usually, it's like, I haven't loved most of the operators from Black Cell. It's just not my aesthetic. So I'm not like, I gotta have it, right? But I think that, to be honest, I think that's as much a me issue as anything else.
No, that's fair. I kind of feel the same way, dude. Like, the operators, and this is something I will say, I don't really think Treyarch, minus Rambo and John McClane from when they put those in Cold War, I don't really think they're that good at doing the operators. If I'm being real, like, their operators are not as good as Sledgehammer and, need I say, even Infinity Ward. Their operators, like, they're just not that good. They maybe have a couple good ones throughout the year, whereas like the other 2 studios have a pretty good amount throughout the year or whatever. But what I will say is the weapon skin. Now, their weapon skins are fire, dude. Like the one, especially the ones in the Black Cell. Like, I'm using that Sarkov marksman rifle or whatever, and I started using the Black Cell version of that, and like it's like this, it's like volcanic, like fire, like it's pretty sweet, dude.
Yeah, and I remember from Cold War there were some really good skins in Cold War that were fun to run. I think that was the first year that they started doing the reactive camos. They introduced reactive camos to Warzone, which was really which was good. Which gun had it first? There was one gun that had it first. I can't remember what it is now, but it was a green one. It was cool. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they do put a lot of focus on the skins and some of the guns. I think the guns feel good. I hear the Krieg is pretty good. I just started leveling it up. So hopefully that goes.
I have it maxed, and I just saw Alex posted that it's kind of a slept-on long-range potential for the meta for Warzone. Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It is really good. I think I like it better than the SOG, which I also have maxed out. Have you used the SOG at all?
No.
So
I take that back a little bit. It's, again, my grind has been mostly snipers. I'm working through those because those when I prestige again, I'll lose access to them. So I want to finish some of these higher end weapons up. But I've switched over to it a few times and run it. It's like my alternate class, and it's a shooter, that's for sure.
So, like, my feeling on the SOG, and I see that there's going to be an option, or there already is, where you can run that akimbo. And I feel like that is where that gun is going to be a problem, because, I mean, overall, I feel like it kind of shoots marshmallows. I was getting a lot of hit markers with that gun. I haven't
in Warzone or multiplayer.
No, I have not run that in Warzone. I'm talking just strictly multiplayer. I haven't run the Krieg in Warzone yet either. As far as Warzone goes, Dude, the M4 is actually pretty solid. I've been running that a lot the last couple days. I mean, the Ames is good. The Model L is good too.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. But yeah, just as far as like the guns from season one, the Krig, like I said, was really good in multiplayer. It was fun to use. And then the SOG is, I don't know. I don't hate it. It's just not great, if you ask me.
All right. Yeah, I'll it'll be interesting. Need to figure out, I need to get some more playing time. We've been just getting ready for the storm rolling up in here, and I've been playing Warzone a bit more, trying to find a way to enjoy that right now, because I sent you that video of what it looks like, I think, when I play, and it's just been miserable. It's like I'm playing a flip book right now. It's not good. But like I said, I think it's something with my connection to the server, because when I when I brought in a third person and we were out of the Bay Area we were on the Los Angeles server towards the end of the night, and all of a sudden it went from like miserable to actually playable, and and we were doing better, or I was doing better at least. So kind of one of those situations where it's a little weird. I don't know what's going on, but I have a feeling it's more me specific than others.
So, we're talking about the season 1 update. I almost feel like we need to bump that segment on the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, because the season 1 update brought a lot of changes into Warzone itself.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to what we had before the Black Ops 6 integration. And before I say all this, let me preface it by saying that not all of the integration has been bad. There's been some good things that have come through there.
Sure.
Like, I like the weapons. I feel like the ground loot is, in my opinion, not, and I'm talking just Urzikstan because I have not played Area 99 or Rebirth. Again, y'all know why I have no interest in doing that. But the ground loot's actually pretty solid, but they broke some shit.
And they broke a lot.
The biggest thing, the biggest thing to me that they broke is, do you remember last year when Urzikstan first launched? Just like those warehouses over where the shipping is, and then just some of the other spaces in general were just extremely dark. Like, you couldn't see shit.
Yeah.
They fixed that, and now with the season 1 update and integration and taking the map back to pre pop off and bunkers and everything else, shit is dark again. I posted a couple different clips where, one of which, you're looking down in a stairwell, and somebody even took a still of it, and they were like, "Where's bro at?" Like, you couldn't fucking see him, dude. Like, and I wasn't mad because I lost the gunfight per se, because I didn't have plates. I just went in there to help my teammate out, right? Yeah. Like, what I was mad about is the fact that I couldn't fucking see him.
Yeah. No, fair. Yeah, we talked about this. And it's definitely one of those things where the lighting matters, right? Like, it's one thing if how do I phrase it? It's like, it was the problem with the rose skin, right? With the OGs remember the rose skin was really hard to see because it was all black and you could hide in shadows, and they made adjustments to it. And people actually really dove into those NVIDIA filters specifically because they were trying to get rid of the shadows, right? That was a big thing. So you'd see content creators and streamers, and their colors would just be super saturated and very bright because they were running these filters with the express purpose of getting rid of shadows, so that you could see Rose, which, good for them, I guess. As a console player at the time, screw you guys. But it was like, it's ridiculous. And so I the frustration, I think, comes from not from losing a gunfight, but not being able to see your target, right? Like, if you're just, you have to know somebody's there. And if the environment if somebody picks the perfect skin and finds a perfect space that just matches the skin, and they just sit there and you don't notice them, I mean, that's one thing. But for them to not put lights in a hallway is a completely different scenario, because now you're not only, it's different because it's the map itself and it's just black, right? Like if you look at your clip, it's just black. You just can't see in that hallway. And I
Well,
think they
no,
need to not do that. Like
the
and they made adjustments in Urzikstan over the year to correct for a lot of those, right? They improved lighting in a lot of spaces, and they've done this repeatedly, right? After Rose became an issue in Verdansk, they started messing with lighting better so that you didn't have these pitch black spots anymore. And they reverted a lot of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so I messaged my guy about that because I remember talking to him about that last year too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not saying that's why it was fixed or anything, but when you do actually know somebody who works on the game, especially in the kind of similar area of where an issue is, you should report it. Like
I agree.
especially do it in a constructive way, which I did. I mean, my anger mainly just is not directed at anyone particular or any,
It's not anger. You're frustrated. It's
yeah.
frustration. There's
Yeah,
a
like
difference.
yeah, it's like when that happens or whatever. But I mean, like, I even had one happen before that where I couldn't see shit. The controversial clip for me. But before we go any further, I do want to mention if you guys are, we don't do like chat throughout the episode a lot unless like there's an opportunity to kind of talk about it. But if you want, if you're going to comment, like click on the video where it's a black screen and then you can comment there and we'll actually see it because otherwise it shows up as a tweet that we may not even see until later on. So I noticed we had a couple of those already, so I just wanted to bring that
Yeah.
up. But
Yeah, solid point.
so the other thing too, like a lot of it for as far as like the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, is a lot of the fluidity has changed too from a mechanical standpoint. Like we've got to be able to point out the difference though between what movement is and what mechanics are, right? Like we can run, slide, and jump. Those things are they're fine. Like I personally don't see any issue with those. Where I do see an issue is the very first thing I noticed is the parachute timing. That shit is way off for me. Someone recommended that I change one of the settings, so I'm gonna have to go look at that. But like that seems off. And then, when before, like when you would put down a box, like an ammo box or an armor box.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd pick up that. I mean, they had it to the point where you threw it down and automatically you hit it, right?
Yeah.
I think what happened with this is it's kind of one of those things of like divergent development. So when you revisit the idea that we're all on the same platform now, right? So it used to be every game was standalone, right, and it didn't connect to any other game. And so what would happen is you would start, the developers would, they all had a base engine, but there were no hooks or connections to each other. It was IW8 before, we're on IW9 now. And what they would do is they would copy the base engine over and then they would make their dramatic changes to it, right? Whether it's adding jetpacks or, whatever the case may, whatever they're doing to it. And they would just develop the game forward with all their ideas and what they were trying to create. And then the next game would take the same base engine and do their own thing to it, right? And so that's why historically every game has really had a very different feel to it. And every studio has kind of their own experience because they have their own tendencies, right? And so like MW, the MW 220, 2007 probably was used as a base for MW3 and probably used the base of MW1, Call of Duty 4. And so Infinity Ward just kind of built off of one thing after another, which is why they all kind of felt similar. Versus Treyarch, which would have done Black Ops and then used Black Ops, their changes for Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3, right? Onward. And so when you do that, that's all fine and good as long as the games don't connect to each other. Warzone screwed that up because they said, "Oh my gosh, we have so many players. If we try to reboot Warzone and create Blackout 2, we're going to lose a lot of players." So they said everything has to connect now, and they changed it. And the framework wasn't designed for that, right? That's why, like, no matter what everybody says, that's why we got MW2, Warzone 2, because the games were not designed to connect to each other, and they were having problems with Warzone because Warzone was built on the MW 2019 engine, right? It's part of that game. So whenever you played Warzone 1, you had to play the Warzone, they had to play MW 2019, right? So no matter what was going on in Cold War or Vanguard, right? Warzone was 2019, and so it carried the 2019 movement mechanics. It carried the weapon systems and the armor systems and streaks and all of that stuff had to work in 2019, and that was part of the problem, right? So you would develop something for Vanguard, for example, and then if you try and port that into Warzone, you have to remake it to work with the 2019 system and the 2019 game. And so when you did that, and a lot of the systems that they built in 2019 were not designed to be decoupled from a map and recoupled to a new map, which is why whenever they integrated, they had tons of problems from a straight functionality problem, like not even like preferences or feature plus or minus, just straight up the game didn't load or the map would have holes in it, right? Stuff like that is because of this kind of archaic process of like unwinding everything you had at the beginning and trying to reattach it properly to new maps and add new guns and all of that stuff. So what they ended up doing is saying, hey, we got to put all of this on one engine, right? Everybody's got to have the same basic framework, and then you can tweak it to do your stuff. The problem is that we still had the same philosophy going forward of we're going to take a game and we're going to branch it. So what that means from a development standpoint is we're going to take a snapshot, make a clone of the program, and then we're going to work off the clone and go forward. So like if you've ever been creating a spreadsheet or something, and you say, all right, I want to try something different, and you clone it, right? And then you modify it. Now you have two spreadsheets and they're different from each other, even though they started at the same place. And to me, it's pretty clear what happened is they cloned the engine during MW2 to develop Omni movement, which means the MW3 changes to movement and some of the MW2 changes later on didn't get carried over. And we saw that with the delays. There were delays on everything, right? Because it's probable that the changes that they made for MW3 weren't translated back. Like Treyarch and what's her name? It's not Raven. Who did Sledgehammer?
Mm-hmm.
Treyarch and Sledgehammer were not sharing. We're not sharing things back and forth of like, oh, I made this change to the engine, you should incorporate it. That wasn't happening, right? So now you've got movement based off. You've got a movement focused game pulling these older mechanics that we've gotten rid of, and we're so used to not having anymore in MW3, right? And don't get me wrong, I think the Omni movement system is great. I think they did a really good job of figuring out how to let you move productively in space, right? Like I really enjoy being able to run sideways and dive and then, and not have this whole like weird, because MW 2019 forward, right? It was this weird, like you're only going forward. If you're going forward, you can do these things. Otherwise, you can't do these things, right? And MW2 really laid in on that hard. And so I think there's a lot of good in that Omni movement, but it's hindered by these really bad systems.
I'm just trying to figure out why for Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 they decided to port over the Minecraft movement. Like that's fucking crazy to me. No, I'm kidding.
You mean pulling it in to
yeah,
because that's what the game. Because think about it, when they cloned the game, that's what the game was.
It was the
when they made their copy
worst movement. But in any case, to your comment you just made a second ago, like I think the Omni movement in Warzone is I think overall it's going to be badass. Like I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Still trying to work through some things on Warzone. But in multiplayer, like, it just gives you so many different options and different ways to approach like a fight, right? Like, so I have a clip. I'm gonna post it. I don't know why it didn't go to my OneDrive yesterday, but I was playing Nuketown and I was working the car area over off to the side. I get two quick
Mm-hmm.
kills, and then a guy actually is up in the window and he starts shooting down on me. And in the clip, you'll see I backslide while still looking at him to cover to create a little space, and I shot him right in his face. Being able to do that, and then also too, like, different ways to be able to approach a corner, right? Like, now you're not having to look, forward around a corner. You can slide out and to the side, and create more
Yeah.
space, create a different angle. Like, it's allowing you to create more angles. And I've used a little bit of the Omni movement in Warzone itself, but right now it's really hard just kind of getting through some of the other issues that have cropped back up, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, the only sniper that feels really good to me in Warzone is the cat. Like, the Black Ops 6 snipers, I got nothing. Man, they just don't feel good to me. I don't know what it is as far as like a ballistics thing, but like the drop, I looked at my builds. I have them built for velocity and for damage range and everything, and just the bullet drop and the physics of that, that seems off to me as well. But the ARs and SMGs feel just fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I picked up the not the Frostline, was it the 7.62 sniper? I picked that one up the other day and got some kills with it. It's pretty good. I think it's going to take some time to get used to. I really want to spend some time one of these days working on the some of the MW2 snipers that are left behind, like the intervention, which I don't know how you can spend so much time, money, and effort marketing that thing and then never, ever, ever let it be decent. It's been a piece of shit in Warzone since day one. It has never been it has never had a reason to be picked and played with, aside from the fact that you want the nostalgia factor, which no one's going to be happy about when it just gets you killed. I want, like, there were so many good options in the sniper field, and they're all just shelved, and it's like we're stuck with that damn cat.
Well, and it is. I will say that sniping, like, as a whole, is better off than we were, when they nerfed it in Caldera and then into Modern Warfare 2, like, that era of Warzone. Like, it's better off there, but it's still not. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement as far as
Mm-hmm.
just making more. Excuse me, like you said, more of the weapons, more viable, especially, the intervention. The SPX 80 never got its time in the sun, which it should have. The LAB it would have been a good gun. And, the crazy thing is those weapons, I mean, even in Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, all of the snipers felt pretty good in the multiplayer side of it. It's just
Yeah,
from the
they felt
Warzone
good.
side they were
But
not good.
Warzone, they just hated it, which was,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's like sniping is a little off. It's not as bad. It's not Warzone too bad. All right, they're
Right.
good. Like, they're good enough. I think the system of wildcards rolls over well, but it's like they reverted so many things that just in MW3 it made Warzone better because the focus could be on having fun and not like messing around trying to get the guns you want to run. Like, that's one of I've said this before, it's one of the biggest benefits of having what's it called, of having loadouts, is that you can run the guns you want to run, right? You don't have to rely on RNG. Maybe I'll pick up a gun that I want, maybe I'll find the thing that I like. And right now, we're in this situation where there's all kinds of stuff to run. It's not like, last year at most of the points where there's one gun that will slap everybody in the face and then, take them out to dinner afterwards. It's a lot of options. You can run a lot of different things. I died all kinds of stuff. And so I don't think that there's a good solid like one gun meta. And that's, hats off to Treyarch for putting that together and making that work out. The problem is that now You can't build the ideal gun without gunfighter, and you can't put together and you can't run two guns without without overkill. So now we're back to where we were in Warzone 1, where it's like you've really got to buy two loadouts, right? Or you've got to buy a loadout for your perks and then pick up gun, from the store.
Well, and speaking of the store, for those of you who may not know, I learned this the hard way. I came back from the gulag and I was going to buy one of my weapons, and I noticed that the cost on it was significantly more. So if you have the gunfighter perk equipped and it has 8 attachments, the cost for that gun is going to cost more than it will cost for like a 5 attachment gun. And
I think it's
you know what?
$6,000.
Yeah, and you know what, dude? I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Another thing that I don't know that people really noticed, and I can't remember the actual perk. I think it's Scavenger, but there's also a way to set it up with Satchel. But if you remember in Warzone 1, at least I know I did, I had one class set up that was a ghost fully loaded class. So, like, if I came back late game or from the gulag or whatever, I had that ghost fully loaded class. So all I had to worry about was getting plates. I didn't have to worry about finding armor. Well, you can do that now because I believe the Scavenger perk gives you max ammo on your primary, but then there's also that other satchel too that will get allow for the more slots. So you can set it up that way. I feel like the perk system feels a little weird to me compared to what we had last year, but it's also too, you got to keep in mind we had 4 perks last year that we were able to use, if I remember correctly. And so we also had things that were built into just automatic overkill, gung ho, those kind of things. So like weapon swapping and ADS speed and stuff like that was decent off the rip. Here they tried to actually go like a 1-to-1 perks for Warzone versus what they're doing in Black Ops 6, which is fine. It's just taking some getting used to, but there should be certain things. Like, I don't think that I think weapon swap should be built in, and it should be the same speed no matter what. You shouldn't need a perk for that. Like,
and
those kind of things.
Have, like, can we just start agreeing with the fact that tactical sprint should just not be a thing? It should just be walk and sprint. Like, I'm getting tired of this whole like. And now the animations are different, so it's not as, because your gun doesn't go flying up into the air when you're tac sprinting anymore. They've messed with the whole auto tac sprint system, so now it's like that tac sprint assist with delays, again with the delays, and it's like, and it's not it's not immediately visible if you're tac sprinting or just regular running. And I'm like, just get rid of it. And then you have a perk, you have sprinter in slot 2. You can be sprinter, and you can just always have it. Like, just get rid of the mechanic. Get rid of it. Like, and this is, and for some reason people think, oh, this stuff is like, this is only helps the good players. No, it doesn't, because the good players, here's why these ticky tack mechanics hurt the average and below players 10 times worse than it hurts the good players. The good players, they know the game well enough that they immediately and instinctively recognize what stance they're in, what position they're in. Are they sprinting? Are they tac sprinting? Right? They understand how long they can tac sprint for, and then they understand mechanics they can use to reset it if that's available to them. The average and below players typically don't have that. They may have very awareness of it when they're paying attention to whether they're tac sprinting or not and how much tac sprint they might have left. But they're going to get caught in modes and mechanics that they're not used to way more frequently. And it's going to hurt them in the long run, because they will die thinking that they can run faster than they can. They will die thinking that they can sprint or take actions that they can't take because they don't have the momentum, because they don't have tac sprint available, because that's a stupid perk instead of a default function of the game.
Well, plating and running, reloading and running, like those things should all be built into the game. And, and again, this is based on the conversation that you and I've been having more or less all week. We talk throughout the week about these things. And these are things that, like you just said, will literally help everybody. So it's not like well, it's one of those things that we have got to use our voice to push. Otherwise, nothing happens. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not looking at this like selfishly. And people like Iceman Isaac, he even tweeted. He said, he's like, I pulled these developers aside and told them, if you do this one for one, it's going to be a problem. And he was dead right. And I think eventually, if we continue with the squeaky wheel, we'll get the grease at some point, and these things will be just fixed as they should be. These are not ticky tack things, like you said. These are things that benefit literally everybody. So I'm going to continue voicing things that I see in the game on Twitter, and it is what it is. People don't like it, they can mute me, block me, whatever. Like I said this week, I'm over the stop complaining crowd. I'm just over those people.
I will point out that I do enjoy the satchel system instead of the backpacks way more than I expected to.
Yeah.
As I've said before, my preference with the backpacks is that I can store plates and ammo and have those available to me, so I can be more me. But it absolutely turned into an issue where somebody would have like 18 self revives, or like the final circle's 75 streaks all going simultaneously.
Yeah, not being streaked to death, spam streaked to death is great. But did you notice, though, that with that resupply perk? So, because, we're talking about backpacks and like people spamming like drill charges and everything else. I believe with that resupply perk, you can get like 4 lethals and 4 tacticals.
That's this munition satchel. Upshare equipment.
I feel like I had that the other day without it. Unless I accidentally picked up a munition satchel, but I feel like I had that the other day. I may have picked up a satchel, actually. You're probably right about it.
I don't recall it being part of it.
But I mean,
Quartermaster. Because it's Quartermaster. Restock is now called Quartermaster.
Yeah.
And it's not a listed perk. It's recharge equipment over time, and it's an automatic unlock.
I just know that I looked down and I saw 4 of each. And I can't remember if
you must have picked up the satchel, because
maybe,
because that's what so that's the perk of the satchel, right? And I think that's a really good balance, right? You can have 12 plates, you can have enough equipment to run and to run off and do your own thing, and get into a bigger engagement and survive longer on it, which is a W. But it also, you have to make choices again, and choices have consequences. I was running with my buddy, and it was like we were coming. I don't know what we were doing. We were, running from the gas or some shit. And it was like I had a plate box, he had a muni box, and we came across something, a flare or something. And it was like, hey, you want to carry the flare? And it was like, fuck, which one of us, what's more important to us, plates or ammo? I think we chose ammo. We should have chosen plates. We used the flare. And yeah, but it was refreshing to be faced with consequences and having to make choices and kind of think ahead a little bit, which is really nice. I also enjoy the change I enjoy the way Omni movement makes approaching gunfights better. And so, I play with my buddy. He's not a great player, right? He's below average. And he has his moments, but he's kind of like fallen off, we'll put it that way. Him and I had a great approach. That building by the bridge near soccer field? And it's just like Sniper Central up there. Usually you can get up
and you can tall building right there.
Yeah, and it's like, it's far enough from downtown that they're not going to bother you from the tall buildings in downtown, but it's, it dominates that area.
Right.
So we were coming up to it and noticed that there was a team up there. And so him and I were able to, we coordinated it. So I went to the zip and he went up the stairs. And so we were talking about, we timed it perfectly. He hit a smoke at the top of the stairs, and then he was able to Omni movement like through the smoke and pop up and gun the guy that was camping the top of the stairs, and the guy couldn't react fast enough, right, because of the way the movement approached. And then I got up the zip, as the guy that was watching the zip turned around to fight back and was able to get him. So we wiped them both off. Modern Warfare 3 and Modern Warfare 2 movement, like we don't survive that gunfight, I don't think, because you could just sit the corner, and between aim assist and the mechanics, we wouldn't have any way to function to fight that effectively. So I think they've done a really good job of changing the systems enough that it opens up more play styles and more ways to approach gunfights. But there's a lot of problems they've introduced, and I think it's trying to be I think we have to find a way to find that balance, right, where it's like we get rid of the little issues that hold everything back so that the good things can shine.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we get that going forward, and hopefully we get ways to bring a little more consistency to the franchise, to be honest, going forward, because we have Warzone's problem, specifically Warzone, but the multiplayer will suffer from this as well, is a lack of consistency title to title, right? It's jarring differences every game. And we saw, and we didn't have that per se in Warzone 1, right? We had technical problems. We had lots of those. Stuff didn't work all the time. But we didn't have a consistency problem, right? The movement was the movement was the movement. Didn't matter what map you were on, didn't matter what game it was. The movement all felt the same. The plating felt the same, right? You knew when you fired, when you threw down a box, what the box would do. You knew when you set, when you picked up a gun, as long as you were familiar with the weapon, you knew how it would work. And you didn't have to relearn anything year to year. Warzone 2 has not been that way. We have been on a yo-yo roller coaster of changes, and none of them have been 100% positive. And we've had so much, as the title of the episode, we've had positive changes, and then they've been walked back by unwanted changes. We'll put it that way. And yeah, and it is that, above most things, is probably going to deter players from playing this game more than anything else. Like, if you walk into a game and you enjoyed it today, and tomorrow you walk in and the things that made the game work don't work anymore, and you have to start over from scratch, it's going to be frustrating. Fortnite doesn't do that, right? Apex doesn't do that. And when they do, everybody throws a fit and they revert it. See the movement changes they made in Fortnite. But, these games, you have to break the mentality of every year is a different game. You can bring new content, you can bring adjustments, and you can introduce new stuff over time. And when it works, you keep it. When it doesn't work, you can let it go. But you shouldn't be restarting every game from scratch. Like, it's just not sustainable in a long-term development system. If we want to get rid of Warzone and just have it end and go back to a yearly release, you get what you get in those modes and you just get to keep playing them, then fine. But I don't think most people want that, to be honest.
No, I listen, BR is, and I don't, nobody knows but Activision or Call of Duty or whatever, what the actual player count breakdown is by mode. And I don't know that they're going to publish that. But from what I can tell, sentiment wise is a lot of the people we know on Twitter, they play either Resurgence or Warzone mostly, and don't really play a lot of, the regular multiplayer. I like the regular multiplayer aspect of it. I play a decent amount of it, and I'm going to continue, especially this game, because as I've mentioned before, multiplayer-wise, this is, to me, the best multiplayer has felt since probably 2018. It's the most fun that I've had. But as far as like Warzone goes, like I said the other day, it's one of those things. It's like when you have these little things that just keep snowballing and this stuff, and then you add that on top of people are dealing with, bullshit matchmaking, cheaters all the fucking time, connection and server issues, which I think that J God cooked everybody's ass this last week when everybody's like, the servers need a higher tick rate. And he's like, oh, really? And he's like, Fortnite, 30 hertz, fucking Apex, 20 hertz, Warzone, 20 hertz. So we're more or less industry standard. And I haven't seen anybody say shit about that since.
So,
but yeah, I thought it was funny as hell he did that.
Let's hit that for a second, because that's a really interesting topic. And I was for a long time, for a while, convinced that, yeah, we need to up the tick rate on the servers. And then I think the developers at Apex talked about it. And then I had a private conversation with a different developer on the topic as well. And he basically confirmed what I think they wrote in their blog post. Is basically the problem with tick rate, right, is when you have a game that's super complicated, that has a lot of things going on, like Warzone does, you need to have an internet connection that can keep up with it, right? Because what'll happen is, so right now we have the problem of, and right now something feels not quite right because we're getting it a little more than we should. But you get things like super bullets, right? Where it's like you hit multiple shots in the same tick, and so it's like you as a player will go from like fully plated to no plates in one frame, and you're like, what the hell just happened? And you lose the gunfight, even though on the other side, it looks like the other guy just shot you a bunch of, the kill cam shows he shot you a bunch of times, right? And in your cam, you got one and dead. And that is an issue with lower tick rates. The problem is that when you have a higher tick rate, the issue reverses, right? Especially if you don't have a really high connection, or you're on a server kind of farther away from where you are. You end up with this situation where I can be running, and I'm not keeping, the server is trying to feed me more information than my internet connection is processing. And your hardware can also play a factor in this. But basically, if you were to go to like 60 hertz or 120 hertz, you're going to see a really big increase in rubber banding, in kind of the packet loss on your end, right? Because right now it's like the server's not necessarily receiving the information from you when you get packet loss, and it's not able to send it back to you effectively. But that's going to go up for most people, because most people don't have a direct line, and they don't live in a city next to the server, right? They're not on most people aren't on gigabit internet yet. And so when you factor in issues related to tick rate, in an ideal world, yeah, a high tick rate is a better scenario. But in a practical world, especially on a game like Warzone, where there is a lot going on in the game, you've got 120. Think about the opening drop. You've got 120 circles, or 120 players. All the bullets they're going to fire, all the grenades you have. It has to remember what doors are open, what doors are closed, all the environmental things going on in the game.
World loadouts dropped, cash drops, streaks, fucking all
what boxes
of it,
are open, what boxes are closed, what ground loot is there, right? It has to remember when someone dies, what did they have, and distribute that loot. Like, all of these things have to happen, and and the game has to know what's going on across all players all the time. Right?
And communicate that to those players too.
Right. Back and forth. A game like Counter-Strike, which has, graphics of like an Atari, 2600, and only has a few players and no destructible environments, right? It is a very simple game. So there's not as much data to move around and process. And so it can run a higher tick rate. Okay? Even multiplayer runs at a higher tick rate than Warzone. And it's because there's not as much going on. There's not as much data to move around.
Less to account for.
Yeah. And so the idea that a BR should run at a higher tick rate just isn't correct. What really we need is more and better distribution of servers. Because, if you look at the server map, they're very congested on the coasts, with like one in Texas. And what we really need from a usability standpoint is the ability to have servers more evenly distributed, and probably need 50% more servers. But then it's a cost benefit analysis, right? Because that, servers are not cheap. It is not inexpensive to run them. And how does that affect profits? Now, you can make the assumption that the assertion that $1 billion company can spare a few $100 million a year extra to add more servers to make the game better. They probably can. Will Microsoft do it? I don't know. I think, as I've said before, I think also we've been on Google servers for some time. I know that they were on Google servers for the CDL because of the deal they had to bring the CDL to YouTube instead of Twitch. And I imagine that deal affected more than just the CDL. So we may see an end to that soon. We may see Microsoft put them on their Azure cloud, which could maybe give us better distribution, kind of solve some of the problems that we've been running into.
Well, so I had an issue last night in the Gulag where, and I have the clip, it was fucking weird. So basically, the Gulag starts out, we both move. Finally, I see where he is. I'm ADSing where I know he's going to come through. Of course, he shows up. I start putting rounds into him, and it was almost like it stopped. And then he shot me, and I died. Like, I was like, what the fuck? What just happened? Last night was brutal for several reasons. We did have some latency issues. We had a couple matches like that. I just got absolutely shit on the entire night. It was not fun at all. Well, I started playing with Drade, and dude, it was one of those things. He has server issues too for whatever reason, and I think I had like 13% packet loss a couple times.
That's like my baseline lately.
Yeah,
I've had as high as 30.
Like
I've had 30% packet loss.
Yeah, I've had it up to about that high before. It's weird how it goes in every game. Too.
I've the night before last was the first time since Warzone integrated that I've actually been able to play with less than 2% packet loss. Less than like 8%. I think I had 2%. And then it dropped off back to 0. I don't think that was true, but
So Silencer brings up something, and I wonder if how much of a contribution that the audio portion of it has on, with the immersive sounds. Like how much, if any, does that contribute to stability at all?
Nope.
Because that's still something in the game.
Audio is processed locally on your device.
Yeah, but something has to communicate with my device to make sure it makes that sound, right?
So it's the same. So the way that the data works, right, is when you, for example, make a foot, so for example, like dynamic elements such as footsteps, right, are like anything else. That's the trajectory and action of those footsteps will be done on your machine, sent to the server, and then distributed to the player base, right? But environmental things like air conditioning units or how walls reverb and stuff, that's going to be processed. Like the heavy lifting is processed locally, right? So it's not like the audio files are being sent back and forth. It's just trajectory, right? Like telemetry is the right word. So like it's, instead of like sending a CD full of audio, right? You're sending a play command. Play this audio. And so it's no different than bullets, or like the amount of data that's going back and forth is going to be no different than bullets or, player positions or anything like that. What's all the heavy lifting, the congestion for audio is being done locally for you. It's on your Xbox. That's why you can adjust your audio settings, and it doesn't change what everybody else hears, right? If audio was device dependent, right, and you were sending the audio back and forth, which is where traffic, which is what would eat the bandwidth and really impact your playability, then how you set your audio up on your console or your PC would affect how other people hear it, right? But it doesn't. Right, because it's all processed locally, just like graphics are rendered locally, right? They don't send graphics back and forth.
So I made the point last week on the episode, and I think it's worth kind of revisiting because we are talking about this. And if we have a game that the majority of the player base is casual and doesn't take time to research anything or whatever like that, then they should simplify that. Like they've put a mixer in, an internal mixer that you can go into, but I mean, like, how many of those people are actually going to go in there and figure that shit out? They should make it where, like I said last week, you can prioritize what you hear first. I want to hear footsteps over everything, then boxes, then this, then this. You know what I mean? Like just a simple
Mhm.
like click, bop, bop, bop. And I don't know if that's possible, able to execute that, but in theory, I think that would be better for a good portion of the player base because, like we've been told, they're just never going to research fuck all about the game.
So that's interesting because the audio system that they have actually does that. Like their new advanced headphone system, that's what it does.
Does it say that though? Does it say this is for footsteps, this is for this,
Well,
or is it
no,
fucking hurts?
no. It prioritizes noises
Really?
specifically.
See, I haven't gone into that at all.
And so here's the thing with the way the audio works is, and they've changed a lot, right? So last year and before, footsteps really lived in one space, right? They were all kind of the same footstep, and then they were adjusted by what they were hitting, right? But the main footstep was kind of the same thing. It was like the same audio file, right? And then it got modified. And so you could highlight that audio file where that played and quiet everything else around it. And you could actually get a really good footstep sound out of it. And that's a lot of what Art of War does, is he tries to isolate that. This year they've learned and they've distributed the footstep audio properly, so it's now distinct sound files. It's not one footstep, right? And there's a pretty wide band of where I've heard them and been able to isolate some of these things. And it depends on the room you're in, the material you're in, how far away they are, right?
Grass,
Like there's
fucking dirt.
yeah, are you listening to it? Are they occluded? Are they in another room, right? So it's way more complicated. And so the advanced audio system that they put in, I forget the company's name that designed it, it actually does a good job of highlighting high priority noises when they're near you. So specifically footsteps, reloading, boxes and crates that get opened.
Do you
That
still hear
cuts
your own
through.
footsteps? Like that's one thing I'd like to
It's
not
better.
hear. I don't
It's
fucking
better.
want to hear my own
They
footsteps.
did an
dude.
audio patch a couple
Shit
of
makes
weeks,
me feel crazy.
a couple days ago.
It overall it is better, by the way. I will say this. The audio in the game is better than it was a week ago, for sure.
Yes. And I don't think when they launched that they turned on that feature. I think they broke it. So I don't think it didn't do anything for me on day one. I tried. I listened to it, on or off. It did nothing. The other thing it does is it interferes. It creates its own spatial audio profile. So like if you look at, what Art of War does, and I did, if you check my video on it, it's on my YouTube. The idea of 3D audio, right? So Dolby surround sound is, we're all familiar with that. You used to have different speakers, right, to create that surround sound for it. They found ways to create it artificially through software and present it to a 2-channel system, left or right channels, right? And so, the Dolby Atmos was one, and there's a few others that are out there that do it. Sony has their Sonos system, or not Sonos, Pulse system that does it. And so it's always been external to Call of Duty, and now it's connected to Call of Duty. It's built into it, right? And so that's what this advanced headphone setting does, is it creates a 3D 7.1 equivalent for you in the game, which they've never had before. And a lot of people, I think, don't like it because it conflicts with their existing surround, right? So if you have anything going on audio-wise and you turn on that, so like if you have loudness EQ, for example, or you use Dolby Atmos on console, the virtual surround that creates conflicts with the audio system that the game has. And so for a lot of folks, I think they don't hear the value of it because it doesn't sound good when you turn that on, because it's messing with what you already have installed.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so I'm probably going to put out a video this week about how to set this up on console so you hear freaking everything. Like, I tested the Artist War Tune, the most current one, and then I tested my setup on console, and they're very similar.
Well, you've got the
good.
sauce audio wise. You got the sauce, man.
Getting there, but yeah, I am very happy with the audio. And if you have problems with audio, right, like hearing footsteps, set that up and turn off some of the other stuff. Like if you're not hearing footsteps, turn off your loudness EQ, set up that thing, and then depending on your system, there's a little more tuning to do. But yeah, exactly what you're looking for is what they actually implemented, which is good. Prioritizes the noise very, and it does. It prioritizes the noises you have to hear very well. I played a couple games on console just testing out these settings, and it was like, I would just sit here and I could just hear the guy coming, and I'm like, oh, you're going to come around the corner, 3, 2, 1, and I'm pre-firing it. I probably got reported because it looked like I was fucking cheating.
Them walls you run, bro.
I know, right? But it's yeah, they're doing a lot, and they're doing a lot in a lot of good ways. And look, they're doing stuff we've asked for, right? Like, we asked for audio tuning, we're getting it. We've asked for some of these other setting, features. We're getting a lot of these features, but we're also, we're just getting this stuff we don't, we're getting back stuff we didn't ask for, and we don't want. And we gotta find a level of consistency, game to game, where we don't feel like we're getting yo-yoed between good stuff and bad stuff. Like, it should be steps forward.
Like I said, last week, and I've mentioned this before, that was one of the maddening things, like with the Vanguard weapons in Caldera, like when you would pick those up, this goes into kind of what we've been talking about. When you would pick those up, you'd get into a fight, and you're trying to move and reload at the same time, but it would cancel your reload. I got killed to that so many times, and it's like those little things that just snowball and become an irritant, So yeah, I mean, I think they are doing a lot of good things. I think that the game is going to be better a month from now. It's going to be better than what it is right now. It's already better than it was last week. So I'm not completely losing my shit over some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Mainly, it's the biggest issue, like I said earlier, to me, is just the lighting. Like, it's too fucking dark. Extremely dark in the Gulag, too. And that's very frustrating to me when you can't see what the hell you're shooting at. Like, that has to change, man.
Visibility remains kind of a thing, and there's still more. I feel like there's a bit more shake. I've heard this from other people, especially mouse and key people, that there's a little bit of shake. There's some other stuff going on that's kind of come back that they had done a good job last year of getting rid of, and depending on the weapons you're looking at. So, I just feel like
Tony's video on that.
I don't know if I watched it, but I think I saw a post about it.
He showed one where he took the TAC 56 into the firing range. And you remember how bad those weapons were as far as just the visual clutter and nonsense at the end of the barrel and just how bouncy everything was? Yeah, it's back on that gun.
It's back, baby.
Yeah, like that's.
But again, that's what happens when happens when you branch the game. You branch an older branch and you can't carry over. Pick up a lot of the changes. I mean, we've talked about this before with why don't these quality of life changes carry? Why didn't they carry over? Right? Why didn't the balloons carry over? Why didn't all these other things come through when MW2 launched? And it's because they came too late in the development cycle, right? They'd already separated the games and built their own, and now they have to go back and re-add all of this extra with extra development time, and it's frustrating. But I think Ghost of Hope posted about this, and if it's true, I think at the end of the day it's a good thing. Ghost of Hope said, what I'm being told about the future of Call of Duty, Microsoft has set up a new committee under Activision for Call of Duty that will control features and systems at the franchise level and let the studios make suggestions. So whenever something like Omni movement, which is new to the franchise, survives this year, is not going to be decided by Infinity Ward or Treyarch, but by the committee. Studios are being told not to innovate in areas like UI, prestige, and certain gameplay features, but focus on innovating on maps, modes, and storytelling, which is where they want their creativity to come from. And Jesus Christ, Mary and Joseph, please let it be true.
Dude,
right? Please.
If that's true, we won't
Sorry for
ever
blasphemy.
we won't ever get another Warzone 2 or Modern Warfare 2 type of thing again, where they completely retool the entire franchise and damn near killed it,
Yeah,
for a lot of
they
people.
did
Like,
so much damage.
well,
They
dude,
did
think
so
about
much
this.
damage.
They brought back the regular prestige system. Everyone that I know that ever cared about that is very, very happy about it. There's a lot of people that are happy about it.
There's a lot of people that don't care one way or the other. They're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but my point is there are certain core things that have been in Call of Duty that should stay in Call of Duty. Like the seasonal prestige nonsense, dude. There's a reason I came over to this game with so many legacy tokens, which they reactivated, by the way.
Yep.
In Black Ops 6. But it's because of the seasonal prestige, dude. I would get to a certain point, and be maxed out by the middle of season 2 Reloaded. I'm already maxed out for that season. I like them bringing back that. So yeah, I think it's.
And I don't know why they called it prestige, because it didn't mean anything, right?
It doesn't really mean as much now.
Nothing, right? But before it meant nothing. It's just like, and especially since you level capped, right? At least in Warzone 1, you could go up to 1,000 levels every season. So, and there was a reward if you hit level 250 or something like that.
Yeah, we had that in Blackout too, because they created that midstream in Blackout.
And so I think it's like it at least every season, right, kind of indicated how much of a life you had that season, right? So if you were reaching level 400 or 500, you had no life, and you could see that in the leaderboard. But if you were struggling to hit 250, clearly you were going to the bars and having some fun and had a life outside the game. Yeah. And so at least it was a good measure of that. And then, but the MW2 system and the MW3 system, great. You played enough to hit your level. You get nothing. It means nothing. You get no advantages. It's literally just a playtime counter that displays.
Well, like I said, there are people that grind camos, such as yourself. There are people that grind prestiges and weapons, such as myself. There are people that grind and try to hit the Easter eggs and stuff like that. So It's really cool that if this committee thing is true, then the things that we all like, or a lot of us like about the game, are going to stay in. And there, listen, every game has core things about the game that make it good. Think about this. If Battlefield had that kind of committee, do you think they go the same route they did in 2042? Fuck no. That committee is absolutely not. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw the tweet.
Committee, by the way, Battlefield's committee is their shareholders, and so they voted.
Yeah. Well, they did. Yeah, because they brought in Vince Zampella, who's ahead of everything. They have 4 different studios working on it, and from what I saw from, I believe, Tom Warren, they are going to have the largest playtest they've ever had, and the reason is because they don't want to have another 2042.
Playtest doesn't matter. They better freaking listen. That's what matters, right?
Yeah, that is what matters, because we told them during the beta that there were certain issues that we had with the game and they never fixed it. So, Call of Duty does the same thing. But anyway, back to the committee for Call of Duty. I think if it's true, that's a good thing. It sounds like Microsoft, if that's true, is starting to really put their stamp on things.
Yeah.
Which is what I had hoped would happen.
And that's something I pointed out a while back was, when they were talking about this, is that Microsoft's advantage is that Call of Duty is not their breadwinner for the company, right? If Call of Duty has a good year, great. If it has a bad year, Microsoft doesn't go under, right? That wasn't true with Activision. So Activision needed to milk every dime and dollar out of every single player every minute that they were playing the game. And so Microsoft taking over opens up the ability for them to sit there and say, all right, we have to do things that players want, because ultimately players that are happy play more and buy more, and therefore they make more money. So if we keep the players happy, and they can stamp out some of the ego, I think, that has come out of some of these studios. Infinity Ward obviously was a big one on that, where they were just like, you know, the MW2 Warzone 2 was probably the biggest ego trip we've ever seen, right? With the whole red dot blog post. We hear you and we don't care. We're going to do what we want to do and you're going to like it. It's not
Pretty
the
much.
attitude. It's not the attitude you need to have. I mean, Jaguar just is in the process of learning that.
They gonna find out today.
They're gonna find out. And I think people are scared of, rightfully so, scared of like Infinity Ward stepping back in because their game is next and saying, "Screw you, we're gonna roll it all back and we're gonna try Warzone 3, Warzone 2 again."
They're
right?
fucking tone deaf enough to do that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm worried. I'm worried about it, and I will not commit. I will not commit to a Call of Duty game until that's Infinity Ward again, until I play it and I get a feel for it and I see what kind of communication is coming out. Because you're right, that whole telling people to get fucked over the red dot thing was it was a bad decision. It was a very bad decision.
And I've talked about red dots, and I mean that's a weird hill. To me, it's a weird hill to die on, but multiplayer people are multiplayer people and they want what they want, right? Just like Warzone people are Warzone people and we want what we want. Multiplayer is, the folks that grind, the folks that are multiplayer people, like there's a formula they like, and don't mess. It's like, we don't need new Coke. We don't need Crystal Pepsi. We have what works, right? Stick with what works. Design a better label for it. And I'll tell you this, looking at the maps that we have this year, overall in multiplayer at launch, we need people spending more of their time designing good maps than we need them coming up with 87 different new mechanics that are all slightly better than what we had before, or worse, right? Like we don't Omni, we don't need a new Omni movement every year. We don't need a new movement engine every year. We need good maps. That's really what I mean. That if you look at the launch of MW or of Black Ops 6, the maps were the biggest problem. They were the absolute, they are bad. The majority of them are just objectively subpar. And some of them, and I think you could arguably make the case that Black Ops 6 launch has at least 4 of the top 10 worst maps in franchise history, minimum. They could have more than that. And the problem is that they spend all of their effort and money putting this Omni movement together, that these maps are like, they are what they are, right? 3-lane maps. What lanes are there? There are no lanes.
That works for me personally, because like I said, after where we were a couple years ago, I know I stopped caring so much about the maps per se, because I care more about how the game feels mechanically. To me, like, making sure that shit works is more important. But I will say this, and I've said this before too, they give you new maps and the community shits on them, right? Like, they don't like the new maps. And it's one of those things. It's like, the one good thing that did come out of Modern Warfare 2 was their maps. Their maps were actually good, minus the border crossing. Those are brand new. People didn't fucking like them. Black Ops 6, these maps, which, there's a few that you're right are pretty terrible. Lowtown is probably my least favorite map, and Red Card. And they made Red Card one of the CDL maps for Hardpoint. That's going to be a fucking shit show, dude.
Oh my God.
That point out that's going to be out there where the actual field is in the stands is going to be a goddamn disaster. I guarantee you that map gets vetoed up 85 to 90% of the time,
Yeah.
And then they give us a new map they gave the Resurgence people a new map with Area 99, which I have not played it, so I'm not going to comment on that. But what I will say is everybody fucking raised hell when they took Rebirth away. Rebirth is the shipment of fucking Warzone. It just is. Like, we always want the same rehash shit brought back.
Well, we want good shit. Like, look, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. Rebirth is darn near a flawless map for small BRs, especially Resurgence BRs. You have separation between POIs. The POIs are big enough to handle multiple teams without having everybody in the same room on top of themselves. The POIs have enough, are open enough that you can move and use mechanics in space to your advantage. So we have all these movement mechanics, you can use them. So it's not like Vondel where you can sit in staircase. You know, most of it is small rooms and staircases where, you know, 1 shotgun and 2 claymores clear the room for you.
I didn't hate Vondel, by the way.
I don't hate
just
it either,
the
but
fucking mode.
it's not an ideal map, right? It doesn't have any extraneous elements in it that interfere with the flow of the map, right? So different POIs all have different pluses and minuses. They have advantages and disadvantages. So there's no power position that's untouchable, right? There are a lot. I mean, the way the circles move on the map are terrific. There are a lot of good things with Rebirth that other maps are unable to capture, and they haven't been able to put something together. And look, Rebirth is not a new map, right? That goes all the way back to BO4, right? That was a Black Ops map.
It was a zombies map before it was actually.
So in other words, back when they put most of their effort into making good maps, they created this map, and it has survived since then, based on that in every iteration that it's been in.
But how are we gonna learn to appreciate the new stuff if all we ever fucking ask for is the old shit? Like,
when they
basically launched this.
Modern Warfare 3 had a bunch of good maps, right?
Yeah,
and those maps people liked, right? They liked Stash House. People liked.
We didn't get those till later on, dude.
Okay, but they were still good maps. People, when they hit, people weren't like, "Oh my god, this is garbage."
My point is they just literally rolled out Area 99. They literally launched it like a week ago. They took away Rebirth. Oh my God. And then they bring it back. So it's like, if anything, they should have stretched that out and maybe not even brought Rebirth back till Season 1 Reloaded. Like, give people time to play and maybe they'll appreciate the map. I don't know. I mean, again, people hate Urzikstan, and I don't hate Urzikstan.
If you missed last episode, tune into it because I ranted about Area 99 and all of its problems. The problem is, if they had created a map that played as well as Rebirth did, that was different, that had that was just a good map, I think people would be more okay with that. I think people would be more okay with having less Rebirth. I mean, look, the Rebirth stands are going to be the Rebirth stands no matter what. But Area 99 is not it. Right, it needs a lot of work to fix some of the problems, and I think some of the problems aren't fixable. At the end of the day,
fix the ground loot over there, or is it still ass?
I haven't been back. So,
God damn, it was that bad. You ain't been back.
I have not touched it. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't played Resurgence. I haven't played it.
I feel like I've played Resurgence a few matches over the last few nights. I had another fucking 6-death match last night. That was fun.
So
fucking blender.
I mean, so the problem is they just haven't been able to put together a good series of maps. I think a Vondel, with the movement that we have, a Vondel Rebirth rotation would play okay. I think that's probably like the best go-to if you want to have a Resurgence rotation. I think Area 99 is a miss. As much as I love the lore of it, I think the map itself is a miss. But hey, look, a lot of creators got care packages, and there's some indication that they're going to do some drastic changes to the map. So it would be nice to see that on big map eventually, one day, in theory, somehow, maybe, please.
And again, dude, in no way am I trying to say that it is a good map. I really don't know. All I'm merely pointing out is that we have a track record as a community and as a player base that calls for old shit. Nuketown, Shipment, Verdansk, Rebirth, those kind of things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what we do. So
yeah, but it's one of those things of like, if you buy a fully loaded like Mercedes from when Mercedes was good, right? And that's your first car, for example, and then your next car is a Honda Civic, and then you buy a base model Toyota Camry, you're going to sit there and be like, I want that Mercedes. And then if you go to Mercedes and you're like, holy crap, Mercedes is a piece of shit now, which it is. I want the old Mercedes back. Like, no one's going to fault you and tell you, oh, stop whining. Just get used to like bad transmissions and like really huge quality control issues on the interior. Just get used to it. Like that's the way it is now. They're going to say, yeah, Mercedes was great back in the day. Like when Mercedes was great, it was really great. It was the best, you know, one of the best cars out there. And now it's a piece of crap. And, you know, and, you know, it's like, you don't want the base model, you know, Toyota Camry. You don't want the Accord, right? You want the old Mercedes, the good Mercedes. I want the good maps. I want them to sit down and like go find the people that designed the original maps and say, figure out what worked good in these maps and make more of them. Give us the good stuff. Stop giving us the crap with the bad interiors and the bad transmissions. And I'm going to go ahead and file that under. Clip that for later.
My God. Moving on. Did you play any multiplayer ranked yet?
I don't play multiplayer ranked.
So I did. I played one night, about 7 matches. I got Jigsy and I played, and I'll tell you,
hacks, because that's the only way to compete on that, I hear.
Yeah, I hear it's infested, but that's got to be like diamond and above. But I'll tell you, the experience was fucking terrible. I will never queue into any ranked mode, whether it is Warzone ranked, Warzone Resurgence ranked. Oh my God. Yeah, I'll never fucking do that. Or multiplayer ranked if I'm not fully stacked. We struggled so bad, dude. I was getting a shit ton of points off of being on the point, but I died like 32 times because our 2 teammates they weren't holding like we were playing the objective, trying to actually win the match, but our teammates were doing who knows what the fuck they were doing. They damn sure weren't holding any crosses or keeping them off of me while I'm on the point. So it was just maddening and frustrating, and I will not do it unless I have the right 4-stack team to go in and play. Of course, I say that. I'm probably going to run that with Jigsy tonight. So, who knows? I'm kind of a glutton for punishment, but also, too, the first week, it's almost like worth it to like sit out of ranked.
Yeah.
For like the first week or two. Let all the really good players get up into the ranks they're supposed to be in, you know, and then at least the first season, because, you know, next season you only go back 1 rank, right? So right. Like,
and you go back to the beginning of your rank. You don't even go back a rank anymore.
Yeah.
Because before you would go back to the beginning of the previous rank. So if you were all the way up at Diamond 3, for example, you're back at Gold 1, right? Which means you got to go all of Gold and then all of Diamond just to go move forward, right? And now it's until you get beyond Diamond, now you're reset to the start of your rank. So if you end this season, you know, if you end the year at Gold 3, you get set back at Gold 1. If you end the season at Platinum 1, you get reset to Platinum 1. So it's much more effective, and it's not going to make the first week of the season as messed up as it has, because, you know, before it was like, you know, because last year I did the grind in the Modern Warfare 3 ranked, Warzone ranked. And it's like, you know, I got myself all the way up to Platinum, and then it was like I was reset to Gold 1. And it was like I was just wiping the floor with Gold 1s, because you got Gold 1s and you had some silvers in there. And it was like, I mean, it wasn't very, you know, it was good for my ego. Don't get me wrong. My ego appreciated it. But it wasn't good for you know, I don't think it was good for ranked overall. It was like a good indication that you should just give it some time to let people work back to where they belong. And getting rid of that, I think, is a good W.
So I did touch Resurgence ranked once, and I got into Gold that season. Like, I don't know. I just didn't really find the enjoyment out of it like I did out of like the regular Warzone rank, but, you know, I can see where maybe people will, and hopefully they don't pull some shit when they come out with the ranked for Warzone. And what I mean by that is I hope that they have Resurgence ranked for those people that want to play that, and Warzone ranked and multi-ranked. Like, just, you know, I hope they're able to actually do that so everybody can have what they want. I want Resurgence to do well, just not at the expense of, you know, the big map, you know, experience. So yeah, I hope that is going to be the case. But, you know, one of the great things that I think that that the ranked gives you is it kind of makes me change how I play a little bit as far as like Warzone goes. Like, you have to play smarter. You slow down and things like that, because the skill-based matchmaking in there puts you with players that are your skill level or above a lot of times, and it's more accurate compared to what we have. And you and Tactical Brent both had videos this week on the topic. You want to? I find your modeling was very, very interesting to me. How you came about doing that? What was the impetus for you to do that? And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you more or less confirmed what you and I have talked about, and I told you would be the case for the solos.
Last, 2 weeks ago, we made a big deal about you eating crow because your opinion was incorrect when it came to how prestige would work. I will go ahead and point out that I have voiced opinions opposition to you in terms of how SBMM would affect it if it was removed. And I will put with a caveat, I will say you were correct on that.
For solos only, because it's hard to fucking know with squads, dude.
So there's a lot that goes into it. As we know, we also don't have the SBMM criteria for Warzone specifically, but when you just look at it from a statistical standpoint, when you ask the question, what happens if you take the player base that exists today and you take out Warzone or you take out SBMM? It's an interesting question, right? Like, and so there's been a lot of guesswork and stuff. So I decided, we should be able to kind of have an idea of like what would a lobby look like if you took away SBMM, right? And so my assumption is you would have a couple of really high skilled players in the lobby, and it would just dominate the lobbies, right? And one of the big points that people make is, hey, high skilled players play a lot, right? You look at some of the higher end competitors, and they'll be on stream for 6, 7, 8, 9+ hours just playing, just grinding, right? And you look at how many other you look at a lot of the other demographics out there, right? And it's like, it was interesting because if you go back to the court case, right, Sony revealed that there's a not small percentage of PlayStation owners that only own a PlayStation to play Call of Duty. It's the only game that they play, and those players typically play for like 2 hours a week tops, maybe less. And so it's like, how are those players going to fare with 4 KD demons in their team? And so I took a measure and built out, kind of took a lot of different factors into consideration. And what I found is that when you look at things, when you look at the distribution of players, you have to distribute you have to make some assumptions about they're going to change some fundamental architecture about it, right? Specifically server distribution, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't have people being pulled into one server where all of a sudden your physical location becomes a massive handicap because you can't level that out. So you have to assume they redistribute servers so they spread the population around a little bit more, right? We're not all like everybody on the West Coast isn't all on 2 servers, and right, the middle of the country is not all on Texas. And then you have to distribute. You have to assume that the main skill brackets all stay put. And this game, there's a lot of data to support that this, Black Ops 3 is actually doing very well in terms of player retention compared to last year.
Black Ops 6?
Or Black Ops 6, sorry. So it's a really good. So there's a lot of kind of like, these things have to be true for it to make sense, which, if you were to get rid of SPMO, I think those things would have to be true anyways. I think everybody could agree on that. And then you look at how many, there's a correlation between how much skill you have and how much you play the game, right? So generally speaking, exceptions always exist, right? But, the median player who plays, roughly an average amount of time is probably going to be an average skilled player, right? And somebody who plays very little is probably going to be a below average skilled player. And someone who plays a lot is going to be above average.
Isn't it? So just to pause you for a second, but I mean, it's more or less like that for anything, right? Like whether it be usually basketball, golf, hockey, baseball, whatever. If you play it more, the chances of you being a better player are higher than if you don't really play it very much anyway. Mm-hmm. You're going to be bad regardless. of
Yeah.
what everyone else does, right? So, and also Tactical Brit mentioned, I think he was mentioning the most common KD being around like a 0.83. I think that was kind of the number that he was going with, or was that your video? I watched them both on the same day. I was like, so I'm trying.
So skill distribution is one of those factors that comes from when we had the API, and a number of people, JGod being the most prominent, over the time from starting kind of in Cold Wars when people first started to do it until towards the end of Caldera, and people actually were able to pull data from the API, specifically like Warzone Ranked and some of these other sites that collected all of this, right? And they were able to model the distribution of skill, right? So how many? So the question is, how many players have a certain skill, like a certain KD, and KD is kind of like it isn't perfect, right? But it is over time a good measure of your skill compared to other players, right? Because if you kill more people than you die to, then you are better than someone who dies more than they kill, right? It's not perfect, but in terms of like having a metric that you can use to measure yourself to other players, I think it works, and it's stable and it's consistent across the board. And so when you take a look at the distribution of players and you say, all right, who has a 0.2 KD, and you count those players, and who has like a 0.5 KD and you count those players, right? You build a distribution, and it's not an average. I want to be clear. We use the term average all the time. It's not an average. The average is always going to be one slightly less, right? So like 0.9495, somewhere in there, depending on how many people Tim the Tat Man themselves and jump off buildings thinking they have Mountaineer, and Mountaineer doesn't work. Okay? Because that lowers the average. But otherwise, the average is one. I kill you, I'm +1, you're -1. Together we are an average of one, right? And so I can kill 20 people and they can all die once, right? And the average is still one. So when somebody says the average KD, it doesn't matter. What they mean is like the most
average, but not the individual KD, right? Like, because your KD would be a 20, but the average for the room is still a 1.
Exactly. So the question is, what's the most common KD, right? Where do people what's the most common? Because the most common is going to be the average skill, right? And depending on when you measure it, it sits between about a 0.85, 83, 86 to kind of in that range, right? And it's been fairly consistent over time, right? The only time it was not was when they took a total account of all players, including players that aren't playing anymore. And that lowered because you had a lot of people that would hop into an account, play one game, die, and quit and not come back in the early days of Warzone. So you had a lot of that. So when you get rid of that, when you account for those people, it sits at about a point. 0.83 is probably the median of all the different sources I found on it. So, and then you look at the distribution of players above and below, right? And you can then build a model that shows, all right, what percentage of players are going to have what KD, right? All the way up. And then you can apply that model, and then you take into account factors like time, and you take into account factors like time played, and some of these other aspects that we talked about, and you can build a model of, all right, if we were to go and create a random, get rid of SPMM and just get rid of the matchmaking factors and just click and just everybody gets to play, what do lobbies look like, right? My expectation is we would see, a couple of high skilled players, and a high skilled player, a 0.1% player or a 1% player and better is a 2KD. So, if 2KD is 1%, top 1%. And if you were to take these, this model, the reality is I couldn't get it to really map the odds of you running into a 2KD player because it wasn't high enough to register. In case you're wondering, like it was really low.
Imagine that.
In terms of the ability for in terms of the ability for the model to really account for that. And so I had to build a lobby, and then I had the model build 1,000 lobbies. right? All random, and then give me the distribution range. And when you look at the player base and you look at the distribution of skill and you look at everything, and the reality is lobbies they don't end up bad, really. They really don't. And I know Activision talked about it in their blog post, and they have a problem. And I think the problem is that they don't have distribution. They have distribution issues, right? They don't have enough servers in enough places to run that test effectively. And we also don't know what aspects of SBMM they turn down. They say they turn down skill, but you have to keep in mind, Activision also tracks things like what are you playing on, right? What system are you playing on? What input are you playing on? And they didn't mention they took that out. They just took skill out, which actually would unbalance it more, because skill, like there's correlations of skill with your input, right? There's correlations of skill with your system, right? PlayStation players generally have we know from data in the court case and some other areas, PlayStation players account for a bigger portion of the bottom of the player base. No offense to PlayStation players, but it's just, that's the way it is. So you have more bad players that play PlayStation than you do having players that play PC, right? PC tends to have better players on average than console players. And so when you're still accounting for that, right? Mouse and key players that are playing mouse and key right now, on average, are going to be better players than controller players on average, because it takes a lot more skill to play mouse and key than it does to play controller. It's just facts, okay? And so when you aren't accounting for that kind of skill differentiation, then the idea that you can run a skill-less matchmaking test doesn't work, because you end up with these other skill differentiators that mess with your results. Okay, so you have to wipe all of that away, all right, to look at this objectively. And the reality is, when you wipe that away, you end up with actually really balanced lobbies that on average, and you will always get flyers. You will always get, some lobby gets scump in it, okay? It just happens. But not every lobby gets scump. In fact, most lobbies don't get anybody above about a 1.5 KD, and there's only like one or two of those in the lobby, right? Most lobbies get a ton of bad players. And my next trick that I'm working on is looking at the data that they released in Caldera and how Caldera played, and modeling and looking at player movements and stuff, and trying to figure out how to model how that would work over time without matchmaking. And I think the reality is most people would actually have a pretty good time most of the time.
Well, and if you really look at, when they released Warzone Ranked, right? Like, they released Warzone Ranked, and it had remember the graphs that showed the distribution of the ranks? And I thought I saw somewhere,
follows.
Yeah, that when you overlay it, that it's basically almost line for line, the same. And that was my theory all along, is that people are sitting here worried about all these top tier players. Well, it's like, okay, well, if a 2 KD is in the top 1%, right? That means that when you build the lobby, that you're going to have very few of those, and there's going to be a lot more other people your own skill level, or, or around there. But I think it would also be fair to note, which I don't know that I agree with the why of it, but when you modeled it to where the bottom, what percent left?
I took out the bottom 20
left. That did make the lobbies a bit harder, correct?
So when you took,
of course you are, Jay.
When you take away the bottom 20% of the lobby, right? So I assume that they quit, or we can assume that they go in a protected bracket or whatever, or however you want to work it. The lobbies for everybody else become nightmare lobbies. You go from, like, you are unlikely to run into, I think it modeled like you would run into a 2 KD or better player 8 out of 1,000 lobbies.
8 out of 1,000?
8 out of 1,000.
Oh my God, I'm going to uninstall the game. Jesus Christ.
You run into 3 of them a game.
So that's what? What's the total number of that?
What do you mean?
So out of 1,000, so you're saying out of 1,000 games, every game you're running into only 3 of those players in each of those games? Is that what you're saying?
There's 2 to 3 top players. If you take the bottom 20% away, it skews it. You're running into those players every game. You actually do run into them every game. And then you look at, you look at the distribution, and it's like the lobbies become so heavily weighted to the top end, right? Like the top 20% have a massive uptick in slots that they take up because they play a lot, right? You need a large player base to balance it. And I think, and to be honest, I had a lot of people reach out and say like, hey, this looks like lobby distributions that we're used to. Like, this is what SBMM is doing right now. And it's why you and I both have, and I think, and so it couples with, and I didn't get into this in the video, I actually cut this from the video, but it models along with what happened with Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3, I don't think had very many bad players playing it. I think they skipped that year. And when I looked at the player data, it was down by 50% in terms of players. It was down by 50% in terms of playtime. And observations are, a lot of people that did hop in and play early probably quit after Christmas, which is why you and I both observed that lobbies got worse. And I think we ran into the problem of a lot of players, we just didn't have a lot of low-skilled players playing the game at all because it wasn't geared to them, it wasn't advertised to them, it wasn't fun for them. And so as a result, SBMM, still took the bottom chunk of the player base and put them in protected brackets, and then left us being the bottom of the player brackets.
So,
your average and above players, we're the worst players out there.
And we're the ones
distribution.
If they're gonna cater to anybody, we're the ones they should be catering to. Because think about this: if we all say fuck you and leave because we're tired of being farmed, what's gonna happen?
And it just accelerates, right?
It just accelerates, exactly. So yeah, no, I thought your video was really good, and I will say this: Tactical Brit's video was really good too, and it does. We've talked about this before. There is a certain level that should be protected.
Sure.
Like, if you're around a 0.2 or 0.3, yes, you should. Those people should be protected and in their own lobbies, leave them to their own devices. But everybody else, just distribute it, dude. It is what it is.
This is my conclusion. I cut 20 minutes from that video. That's an 18-minute video, and I cut 20 minutes of it. I want you to understand that, just for you, Jay, so that you'd watch
Jesus.
it.
That's awesome.
Here's the thing. I think in general matchmaking, we need to not protect anybody. Nobody gets protected. Everybody gets in. There's no distribution. There's no separation by device. There's no separation by input. It is just you play. And I think that would actually generate the best experience for the vast majority of players. But you give them an alternative mode, which I think is what Bootcamp is doing.
Kids.
Yeah. The difference is you give them a mode like Bootcamp, in which Bootcamp, it gives you a space where bad players can succeed and can learn the game and can practice and can be protected, and it doesn't harm everybody else.
But you got to keep players out like you and I, like guys, and I'm not talking about like as if we're high skilled or whatever, but we don't need to be in boot camp, dude. Like, we play the game enough. Like, you gotta, they would need to keep people out that don't belong there.
I don't even think that's true. You just, what you need to do is you need to create a distribution model and you need to allow a certain number of human spots at certain skill levels. And if there's, and it's like, maybe a 1 KD or better, or a certain number of hours played or better, and it's like there's only like 3 spots in that, in the whole game for those people, right? Something where it's like it's still distributed, it's still there. That way, you don't have people that feel the need to two box or make bad account, to make extra accounts or something just to get, farm clips or whatever. And the reality is, again, there's not going to be enough people like that. That makes it so there's not enough people to ruin the game every time for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes like the model of no SBMM, where you every now and again you're gonna run into Aiden. Okay, it's gonna happen every couple thousand games.
Yeah,
right?
Big deal.
But most of the time, you'll get to enjoy it, right? And more people will enjoy it. And if you do the same thing with boot camp, you control it through the distribution of skill that's allowed, right? Right? There's only going to be one slot for a player who's average or better, right? And we're going to fill a bunch of spots with AI, and we're going to make sure that the distribution of players is correct. Like sometimes you're going to get a guy in there that just runs the table on the lobby. Most of the time you won't. And you know what? You can even put a watermark on it or some indicator on it that you can visually tell that you're playing in the boot camp mode and not playing the real game, which would disincentivize people from going on it for clips, right? If your viewers can know from looking at it that you're playing boot camp and you're not playing the real game, you're not going to get, the acclaim that you're seeking. And that's going to drive a lot of people out of it. There's ways to do it without screwing up the main game for more people than you would. And I think that's what they have to find a way to make that work.
Yeah. Well, like I said, and we're winding down here, but last year was by far the worst experience on Warzone that I've had since it came out. Since Call of Duty VR came out, including Blackout. Like, it was the absolute worst. And maybe that's in correlation to what you're saying as far as, total player count, those kind of things. I mean, that's part of it. But I can tell you that right now, this experience, for the most part, is pretty solid. I'm playing with the people I want to play with, or, some of them that are high skilled, and I'm not getting fucked over a lot. I'm having a few bad matches here and there. Like, I have at least one blender match a night, at least one where it's like 6 deaths and Drade won't fucking die. He's got $87,000 and buys me back 4 more times. That shit happens. But yeah.
It should, right? And it should happen. Right? Like, because, otherwise the game's boring, right? If you don't have to try, where's the fun in that?
And like I've said, I don't mind. Like, listen, if I'm going to get farmed by people better than me, I damn well better have the opportunity to farm people that are worse than me too. And that's fair, right? We talk about fairness. That's fair. So, that's just the way I feel about it. I feel like you did really good work here, man. Like, no, I haven't seen anyone be able to talk about it in a way that you have because of the modeling that you put together. And it's data that's not agenda driven either. So let's not forget that white paper was agenda driven. We had to twist their fucking arm to get it.
I gathered that data to prove my point. I proved myself wrong, but, fine. Data goes, we go where the data points us, right, at the end of the day, if we're wise. But I think at the end of the day, looking, to your point, the white paper was, I think it was fundamentally flawed because they, according to what they said about it, I don't want to say it was data. I don't want to say it was agenda driven in some like conspiratorial way. I think it was, I think they genuinely look at the data and the data says this or that. I think the problem is that they do not hire the right people to look at the data. Consistently, we see bad decisions, right, or bad statements based on data, and I think there's either factors they don't understand or aren't taking into account, or they have data scientists that have very narrow blinders on of like how the experience looks through data.
What's that meme that says scientists agree, and then underneath it, it's like, yeah, scientists agree because you censor the ones that don't agree with you.
Lost you. I don't hear you.
Am I back? Yeah. So my point is like, there's that meme, and I don't know if it where it cut off, but like, it's like scientists agree, and then it's like, oh, you motherfucker. God damn you. There you go. I don't know why it keeps trying to reconnect, but anyway, my point is if scientists say one thing but you censor other scientists that don't agree with it, of course scientists are all going to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like every dentist agrees on the same. 9 out of 10 dentists agree on the same toothpaste. But please find me a dentist who's ever been surveyed, right?
Exactly.
It's like they've got the same dentist all in a room.
Yeah, but anyway, good shit, dude.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, before Jay's internet connection dies and my kids come storming in here again, we're going to wrap up on the day. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for coming by, sticking around. Great episode. Got through a lot of content. We've got some guests coming up over the next couple of weeks, so we're excited to announce that and talk about that. Looking forward to having that be on the docket. This week coming up, we are not going to do our typical live broadcast because it's the Thanksgiving holiday. We've got stuff to eat, Christmas decorations to put up, football to watch, all that stuff. We are going to pre-record and release that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of those audio places, and on YouTube on Monday. So look out for that. Going into the holidays, we will probably have some adjustments based on what we're doing and where holidays land. So stay tuned. Check us out on Facebook on Facebook. Oh my God.
Facebook. What the fuck?
Good Lord. Check us out on Twitter.
And our Discord. We've been posting in there a lot more.
So thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next one.